I would like to call to order the Cohasset Advisory Committee meeting of Wednesday, October 23rd, 2024. We are holding our meetings virtually because the law allows that. Mass General Law 30A, Section 20B. So I'm going to do a roll call now. And Vince, we do this at every meeting. And then because to initiate and to adjourn, and then any votes that we take in the course of the meeting also have to be done by roll call since it's virtual.
Certainly.
Okay, so when I call you, you can just say aye or nay or whichever you decide on what we're voting on. Okay, so Mike Barclay.
Present.
Mark Cameron.
Mark Cameron here.
Fran Collins.
Present.
Diane Kennedy.
Diane Kennedy here.
Mark Maggi.
Mark Maggi here.
Mary McGoldrick.
Here.
Vince Thornton.
Here.
Meg Wheeler is not here. And Gina Stino present. Okay, so the first article that we're going to discuss is amendments to fiscal 2025 operating budget. Are there changes to what you?
So what Tracy said on Monday? No, I don't think there's any change since Monday. But
Okay.
I will share the screen so we're all talking about the same thing.
That's great. That's great.
If everybody can see that. So the only transfer at the moment, and the only one that I'm foreseeing is the quarterly, the biannual transfer we make to 143 TV for the money we get from cable access fees, and that's the first quarter, 62,174.76. It may go up if we get the second quarter before December, but we don't know that we will. So
Okay, so does anyone have any questions? I'm sorry, I'm a little off kilter because I've had a tough day and several days, but anyway. Does anybody have any questions or comments on this? No? Okay, so could we have a motion to recommend Article 1 to town meeting?
So moved.
so moved.
Second.
Mary and Mark? Mike?
Like
Mike. All in favor?
All right.
We have to
Mike
do roll
Bark-
call, don't we?
Yep. Mike Barclay,
Mike Barclay, aye.
Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron, aye.
Fran Collins,
Aye.
Diane Kennedy,
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Mark Maggi,
Aye.
Mary McGoldrick,
Aye.
Vince Thornton,
Vince Thornton, aye.
and Gina Stino, aye. Great. Okay, so the next item on the agenda
Unpaid
is,
bills, I don't have any, so we'll hold this another meeting and hopefully we won't have any when we talk next week.
that was my next question. Do you anticipate that there might be some?
Well, we're still going through the closeout of the year, so we're a little behind. So I'm hoping the answer is no. We were just going through encumbrances this last week and this week. So if we've caught everything, then the answer is no. So my fingers are crossed. So.
Okay, so I'm going to just make a note to myself that we're going to hold for a future meeting. And can you remind me, Chris, of that closing of the warrant for printing, the date?
The select board's last meeting is November 6th, so that's when it's gonna close
Okay.
for printing purposes.
Yes. Yeah. We still have discussions. I know.
Yep.
Okay. So next is Article 3, stabilization funds. The select board has contacted me. They would like to, hold on just a minute. They would like to have a joint meeting with us next Tuesday. And I know Tuesday is not an optimal meeting night for people, but I would propose that possibly after the action with the select board, that maybe we could have our regular meeting and not meet on Wednesday, if that can work for everybody, or at least if we have a quorum. So
Yeah.
that's October 29th.
Yep, fine by me.
And what's the point of the meeting? Just,
For discussion and vote on the stabilization funds.
okay,
This is the specials, the school and road special stabilization funds. It's an annual
it.
meeting to discuss whether they need to be continued, and if they
Got
do they go higher or lower or stay the same?
Okay, are you okay for that, Diane?
yes, I can do that. Yeah.
Anyone else okay for that?
What time would it be, the meeting?
Well, they meet at 7, but I don't know. Chris, do you know if we could put it at the beginning of the agenda?
I think the goal would be to put it at the beginning of the agenda.
And then we could split off. As I said, we wouldn't have to have a meeting on Wednesday. I mean, Chris will be at
Well,
the select board meeting, but
I'd have to juggle. I'd have to see if I could juggle with Michelle, and maybe she could cover for me at the select board meeting, so I could stay working with you folks if I need to.
okay. I mean, we can work on the logistics of that. That would be great.
Okay.
Okay. So anybody else?
Gene, I have a Eagle Scout board of review that evening from 8 to 9.
Okay. So that's an in-person meeting, I take it?
It's actually virtual.
Okay.
So
So would you be able to participate, say, from 7 to 7:20?
I could probably do 7 to right up to 8 o'clock. So
Okay, so Chris, if you could speak to the chair of the select board and see if we could be on the agenda right at 7, that would be fantastic. So that's 4. Do I have a 5?
I should be able to make it.
I
My
can make
chances,
it.
yeah, my chances of making it on Tuesday are just as high as they are in making it on Wednesday. So
I'm sorry, I didn't catch what you said, Mark. I'm sorry.
I said, yeah, there's just as good a chance of me being available Tuesday as Wednesday. So yeah, I should be able to make it.
Okay. So that's 5. I need at least one more person. Fran, thank you. Anyone else? Mike, are you available?
Yeah, I'll be available.
Okay, great. And so Mark Cameron,
I'm not sure that I'm gonna be able to make it that night,
okay. All right,
but I'll try. I'll see if I can.
okay, I'll put a question mark next to you. And I'll reach out to Meg. So that's 2, 4, 6, that's all of us, so that would be great. And then again, I'll work out the logistics, maybe the advisory section would be, say, 7:30 or 7:45 on. And Vince, if you have to miss that, that's fine. I mean, you do you,
okay, thank you.
okay? You're welcome.
Well, the select board chairs of the audience, you're pitching to her right now, so.
Okay. So do you want to go ahead and do that? Can
Well,
you ask?
yeah, I'll see about setting up the logistics. I don't know if, I mean, here, I want to see if,
I know we
you-
tried to set this up before and it didn't work.
are you okay, Ellen, with putting the advisory piece at the first?
Yes, we just have to double check with school committee too, because it's a tri meeting. But I think it makes most sense.
Okay.
That
All
would
right.
be
And I'm just sending a note to Tracy to move it on the draft agenda.
great. Thanks, Ellen.
Chris, do you know if Tracy reached out to the school committee?
Yeah, I expect I think she did this afternoon. I'll follow up with her in the morning, so.
Okay,
Okay, if we need to change anything, just let me know, but
okay, so it'll be right after public comment, like at 7:03,
okay, terrific.
unless we have a lot of public comment.
Shh. Okay, that would be great. We can make-
I'm gonna send Ellen back to the audience. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ellen.
Thank you.
Okay, so that is stabilization fund, so we'll talk about that next week.
Well, actually, no, the one that's on the warrant is,
Well, there is one already.
yeah, this is just the transfer. Hold
Right.
on. Yeah.
So,
Following the financial policies is the transfer into the OPEB account.
and that's something that we do each year, Vince, just for your
Correct.
information.
Yeah.
Okay, so the transfer to the OPEB fund would be $350,000 from free cash to the OPEB trust fund. And you know what OPEB is, right, Vince?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So do I have a motion to recommend the transfer to OPEB from free cash in the amount of $50,000? You're doing it so fast, I can't even decipher the voice. Who moved it? Okay, Fran. Second,
Second,
Mark.
Mike.
Okay, was it Mike or Mark? Okay,
Mike.
sorry.
Mm.
Okay, so roll call, please. Mike Barclay,
Mike Barclay, aye.
Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron, aye.
Fran Collins.
Aye.
Diane Kennedy,
Diane Kennedy, I.
Mark Maggi,
Mark Maggi, aye.
Mary McGoldrick,
Aye.
Vince Thornton,
Aye.
and Gina Stino. Aye. Okay. So next is allocation of funds for one-time costs. Article 4. Chris, do you want to run through these?
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
So there's 5, and I'll walk through them. So the open space and recreation plan is due for renewal. It expires in May of 26. So it takes usually about a year to get the thing updated. So this would fund that plan. Hopefully it won't cost that much, because it's basically an update of what was done last time. The town hasn't physically changed, and I think a lot of the key priorities are similar. That said, there have to be public hearings and analysis done. So this would fund that update, which is required for us to be able to participate in a number of grant programs. It's also just a good policy. Second, funds the rental inspection program software we talked about, and Pam is in the audience today for a follow-up. And I think you all have gotten that draft budget that she put together. The next one, which I have to hammer out with the select board in more detail next week, is really not a 41 Highland analysis. It's not going to be kind of a future of government analysis. So one of the conversations that have been taking place is, well, if we're going to need new, well, there's a consensus that there's going to need a need for space, for an office space. What does it look like? What's government going to look like? And I actually just got a nice feedback today from the executive director of the Collins Center. They're a public management center at UMass Boston, and they've just created something. And if you give me a second here, I can pull up what Mike referred to it as. It was some kind of here it is. They've just created a new unit called the Public Innovation Design Studio. And they're very excited about having a conversation with us about, what government looks like, working from home and how do services get provided and all of that. So if there's going to be an ongoing conversation about what a town hall might look like, there seems to be a real need to figure out what government might look like, and to have a third party help us with that conversation. So I'm going to get a little tighter cost for next week, but the placeholder is $50,000. Oops. I don't, need to see my emails. And the next one is we do a regular transfer out of the waterways fund to allow the harbor master to do repairs on things, docks, floats, a whole bunch of things. This is a request that she's made for funding. We didn't do one at annual. And the last, so we've been charging now for the charging stations. We actually charge people to use the charging stations for their cars. And this last year, it generated about $20,000. We don't have a separate fund it goes into. That said, some of the charging stations are getting a little older, and we need to start repairing them. And it makes sense to use the funds, or at least the equivalent amount of the funds, to go into a separate fund to actually repair the charging stations. I mean, so for example, there's 2 of the schools that have they work, but their screens have become very hard to see. So we need to get those fixed, and they're out of warranty, of course, right? So the warranties don't last a long time. And we have ones behind town hall that have needed repair as well. So this would actually get us the repair. It would start now. I think in the spring we'd probably come back with an article to set up a separate fund, so the money would come in and stay there. We just don't have that set up at this point, and this is kind of the equivalent of doing that. That's the amount of money that came in last year for electric charging. So
That's great. Okay, Mary was first, and then Diane, Fran, and Mike.
So you just answered my first question, Chris, which was going to be, why don't we set up a revolving fund for the electric charging stations?
We should.
So that's great. My second is, I suppose, more of a comment, and at the risk of bringing up Groundhog Day, I don't love the idea of throwing yet more money at town hall when it never seems to go anywhere. And I guess if there would be an opportunity to have a good discussion when we meet with the select board, if time allows, to just get a better sense of where they are, what their conversations have been like at this point. We've spent a lot of money to no avail for some really nice plans and a really extraordinary amount of work for a lot of people. So I'm sorry, there's not a question in there other than if we could discuss it with the select board.
Yep. Well, you have someone listening for the select board right now, but I'll carry that back too. So,
Okay.
but again, this isn't about town hall physically so much as town government conceptually. It's like, what would I mean, I know we've done program stays. Ellen does want to comment, Jane, if you want me to.
Yes, please.
All right, hold on. All right, you're in.
Hi, so I really didn't intend to talk tonight, and Mark can speak to this as well. So there's been a town hall working group that has been meeting for several weeks now and talking about every option under the sun, including what was presented at a town forum last spring on town hall with a cultural center. And, how do we approach this, Mary? Because you're absolutely right. There has been no appetite by the taxpayers in this town to spend money on town hall. However, we need to do something just in terms of keeping it structurally safe for our municipal employees. So then we got into the conversation about, well, before we decide what space they need to be in, we need to decide we need to figure out how government's going to look going forward. So that's the request, really about how municipal government will look in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years to help shape whatever we may put in front of the town for 41 Highland Ave.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question, Mary?
In as much as that question can ever be answered.
Exactly. I mean, we all thought the third try was going to be the charm, but it wasn't. Diane?
Yeah, so I do have two separate questions, but one of them was, of course, the same thing. And just from a marketing standpoint, I wouldn't put 41 Highland.
No.
This in there.
So this conversation changed last night, so we haven't
Right.
changed the language in this yet. So.
But just knowing that this warrant goes out to the residents who are going to show up at town meeting, and we want to make sure that we're very clear about what we're looking for. And I think, the space needs analysis, we've done that too. So again, I would caution just in trying to frame this the right way, so that I understand the need, and things change. When we did the first 2 or 3 needs analyses for town hall, they were pre-pandemic, and so things are different. So just caution there. And then just a question on the rental inspection program, just based on what I remember from our last meeting. This is specifically for the software, but we're also talking about setting up a revolving fund. Is that right? And funding that?
Yeah, in fact, that's the only ask we actually have, is to set up a revolving fund.
Other than this money.
Other than this, right. This would fund the the actual software we need, and then the revolving fund would collect the money going forward, and we then use it to pay the expenses of the program.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm done.
And Pam's here too. If anyone has any further questions, she's here in the audience.
Actually, this information was helpful because it looks quite different from what was presented the last time. So I think it's a little bit more realistic. Thank you. Fran?
I think you just answered my first question, that this rental program needs to be self-funded. We shouldn't be paying a whole lot of money to make sure that people's furnaces work and they have hot water. But so if that's the case, I'm all right with that. The other question I have is about the waterways fund. As the battle rages between the oyster industry and between Situate and Cohasset, how is our harbor funding going to be affected by this? Is Situate still making noise about taking over half the harbor? And if that's the case, the major funding for the harbor master's office is going to pretty well dry up, isn't it?
So to answer your kind of second question first, while there have been conversations between publicly noted at select board meetings between the select board, at a very high level between the chairs of the select board of each town, there has been no settlement reached. So I don't know that anyone's public position has changed. That said, our assessor's position is that if the excise taxes follow the work. So if the town of Cohasset is paying to maintain the harbor, then the excise taxes should flow to the town of Cohasset to pay for the maintenance of the harbor. And that's how we've been collecting this last year. So in terms of impact, I in a worst case scenario, Fran, I'm not sure what the excise tax number would look like, because it's I mean, we do have, there are a lot of boats that are inside the breakwater and inside the line. And that's actually where most of our float. I mean, we don't really have any floats or any of these materials outside, right? I mean, the town dock, the floats, the docks are really all really in Cohasset waters anyway. That said, there would be some potential diminution, potentially. I just don't know what it would be. It really, so for now, this is what we've got. So, and I guess we'll have to see how it all plays out.
Okay.
All right, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I'd echo the sentiments on 41 Highland, but that's been articulated already. My question on the rental program is just looking at the spreadsheet that we got, where first year income is 35,000, first year cost is 13,492. Would this 9,800 come back to free cash out of the rental program, seeing how it seems like in year one there'd be more than enough to coming out of that, I guess, if it's a stabilization fund, back into free cash?
Yeah, I think well, I can't put it back into free cash, but I could. If there's surplus money at the end of the day, we can most certainly. If we have money later, let me put it this way: if we have money before the end of the year in this fund that will pay for the cost, we can replace the free cash we already used with the money from the fund. So I guess indirectly we could put the money into next year's free cash is what would happen, I guess, right? Or because it wouldn't get spent. So the answer is it could be offset during the course of the year if we actually have revenue in this fund. This fund doesn't exist and the program doesn't exist yet. So we have to buy it now. We have to buy the software now. So but it doesn't get, free cash kind of ends at the end of the year and then it gets recertified in the following year, right? So if we ended up being able to pay for it from another source, we don't use the free cash, effectively it would roll into next year unspent.
Okay.
Right?
So we're gonna spend 9,800 up front. We're not sure if the program's been approved. I mean, we'll wait until the program's approved, right?
Well, the program's been approved, but it hasn't started yet. It's not going to start till January.
Right.
And then, there's an estimate of 350 rental units is probably a fair estimate, but we don't know for sure. And then people have to pay us. And it's, I don't want to spin this out too much, but somebody could always challenge us if they wanted to. And, so I would hope that everyone would cooperate and pay, and then we'd have the funds and we'd be good. And then if that's the case and we have enough money to pay it, we can use this fund instead, because that's what this is set up for.
Okay,
Can we set up a revolving fund for this program?
Yeah, that's in another article, but yeah, that's the ask us to do
Okay.
that.
Okay,
yeah, I'm just saying there should be more than enough in year one revenues to pay for what is a startup cost directly associated with this program. That's all.
That's the hope. And that's the expectation. It's just, I just don't have the money now. So, and it's like a chicken and egg, right? We got to have the software to have the program. So,
Okay. Mark?
On the vehicle charging money. So if we've generated roughly 20,000 and we're gonna be putting that money back into the infrastructure, that doesn't really account for the utility costs that we've then generated, right? To pay for the electricity that's going into those vehicles. So is that right to say that, or is there, like, is this going to be a revolving fund too, where this is going to be a self-supporting entity that the money coming in is covering the utility cost and the infrastructure maintenance and repairs?
I
'Cause
think I'm sorry.
if this is just covering, if we've had 20,000 gross come in, and now we're using that 20,000 to invest it in repairs, the town is still then bearing the cost of the utility.
Yes. So what I do think the goal would be was to have the whole program kind of self-sustaining, right? So we pay the bill out of it, and then we do the maintenance. I'm not sure if this will ever generate enough to pay for the entire maintenance of the system, but even some of it is better than nothing. So, because these are all kind of to be replaced from time to time, and I hope we're going to actively pursue grants. That said, grants are generally for full-scale replacement of a whole unit. These things are going to need interim work. Again, as I just mentioned, there's like the face plates and the ones at the schools have to be replaced. You can't even see through them really well.
Yeah, and that's fair. And then so I guess the ask would be is on the charging rate that goes into it per usage. Maybe that's, maybe there's money built into that rate so that it helps cover the repairs of it, right? So that it's covering the utility and the repair, not just a portion of it.
That's the goal. So we're kind of feeling our way a little bit still on this. So one of the questions was, because we were doing it free as a startup, and we did, and then we put the charging in place. We were trying to get a sweet spot on that, and it seems that they're in use and they're being and the charging is fair. I mean, I've charged it myself, right? I've been up at the library a couple of times for meetings, and I've paid a buck or two, right? And I think they're being used regularly. And I did see an article, by the way. They're also an economic development tool. When you have charging stations, it helps generate traffic, believe it or not, to businesses, because if you have an electric car, you can maybe charge up while you're there, whether you do or not. That said, the goal is, Mark, to be self-sufficient on the utilities for sure, and at least for the basic repairs. That's the goal. I think we're gonna have to, though. This industry is so new, I don't know. We're hoping it's going to get a lot less expensive, these units, as the market improves, and it'll be just like a regular cost of like replacing a gas pump or something, which we do at Public Works, and hopefully they'll last a really long time. So
yeah, I think it just should be something that then benefits the town and not, it doesn't hurt the bottom line
Yes.
of the budget.
That's the goal. I mean, right now it's comparatively de minimis, right? That said, we may end up putting more of these in. I mean, I don't know. I mean, but some of the private sector is starting to move in, right? As I understand, Stop and Shop's installed some that are not ours. Those are private, right? So as the private sector gets more into this, we may end up not having to do much more. I guess we'll have to see what the infrastructure looks like as time goes on.
Thanks.
Has there been any conversation, Chris, about the possibility of solar power to charge the charging stations to
Yes.
diminish the cost of our utilities?
So, my prior community actually put in a solar treed parking lot that fueled electric chargers. Now, this was 12, 14 years ago, right? The industry was still kind of in its infancy.
Yeah.
But those are happen a lot. I mean, you know, one of the charging stations I stop at periodically when I go back and forth to New York is in New Haven, and there's a solar tree that powers not the Tesla chargers. Those are actually is separate, but the ones that are in the complex there by this hotel are powered by the solar farm, a solar tree above. So yes, there's definitely a possibility to have a completely green fueled solar charger. The thing is that you have to have a fairly you'd have to maybe, you know, like cover some of a parking lot with a solar tree or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Or if you're right by a building that has rooftop solar, you know, maybe running into that. I think those opportunities are going to present themselves as we get deeper into this.
Yeah, the middle of the parking lot's pretty sunny. The outskirts, not so much. They would be probably too shaded because of the trees. We don't want to be taking any trees down to do this. But
No. I mean, we have them at the library, we have them at the high school, we have them at town hall, we have them in
the
main
ones at
parking lot.
town hall, though, are pretty old at this point. Those
Yeah,
were-
they're not working. That's one of the problems. They were in for a while. There's some repair that's going to cost. Well, one of the reasons we haven't repaired it, we don't have any money for it. So this will actually help us repair those behind town hall too. So
Right. Okay, because those were
those are the first ones.
they were
behind town hall.
a few years before I was off the school committee, and I was off in 2019, so maybe 2016.
Yeah, we've had them for a while, and I really had hoped that they would last longer than 6 or 7 years, but they didn't.
Yeah,
So
that's kind of not good, but who knows? Maybe the new technology is better.
I hope so.
So, Fran,
Now, what are we doing to get people to move their cars off the chargers? That seems to be a perennial problem with people plug their cars in, they go off and do about their business, and the car stays there all day or for many hours.
There are penalty fees, Fran, and I've actually paid them. So after a certain point, this is when we were being very aggressive, and I told Michelle later that 2 hours was kind of mean when I had to sit through a meeting for 4 hours, and I was getting I was getting paid like charged $10 a half hour for my overage charges. So yes, we do have overage charges, Fran. So if you hit a certain point, I don't remember, I think it's 3 hours now, you get charged extra. And it comes right on your credit card. So we get the money. So
Okay, so you're guaranteed to get the money.
we're
All right,
guaranteed.
that's-
And we've
yeah,
actually said we had somebody complain to us, by the way, that that's when we hit that little spike in the fees, and somebody let it sit there overnight, and he was charged like $80 or $90. He was pretty unhappy. But the point was, you're not supposed to, hold the stations overnight. It's not a personal charging station, right? So,
Right.
But there is a penalty fee.
Okay, thanks.
okay. Any more questions? Okay, so are we ready to recommend this article?
Yeah.
Okay, so do I have a motion to recommend? Go ahead, Diane.
I mean, again, I don't want to speak for any of your members. If you want to vote for it, I think based on the conversation, it might be better if we come back next week after you've had a chance to talk through some of this, unless you want to vote for it. I mean, I'm not going to tell you not to.
My only question was kind of that way, because we don't have there's not a real number there for the rental inspection program software. It just says $9,800 plus. So, we wouldn't be able to vote on that because that's not a real number.
It's an estimate, Chris? No,
I didn't have the cost of the iPad initially, and now again, I haven't updated this today. Pam has given me that now. It's
Because whatever we vote on should be the number that we're.
right. So I have to add $1,300 to this, I think. No, I guess I know it's going to be $13,492. That's the new total number.
Oh, and that's on the information that we have already.
Right. So now I have a full first year cost for
Right.
all the hardware and software. So I can change that to $13,492. So
It's at the bottom of the first year cost
Yeah.
column.
I'll tell you, I'll make it $13,500 just to make it round.
Sorry, I'm
Okay.
just looking at,
492.
I'm looking at the warrant, so I'm in a different document. I
Yeah.
apologize.
So let me share it with you. I just updated it to say $13,500.
Okay,
That's the number that's coming out of Pam's worksheet. That's Pam's worksheet.
yep.
So
Okay. So if you want to just make a note on your copy of the warrant or on your agenda, if you have one in front of you for notes, that Chris has changed that number so that it makes it a little bit more sensible to recommend. Is everybody good with that, or do you still want, oh, I see hands up. Mike?
I'm good.
Okay. Mark?
My only comment would have been on the 41 Highland Ave line and the language, as that may be evolving, but just a comment, no opposition or anything to it.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree that that has to get changed. The number, we're voting on numbers, so that's the only reason I want the number to be accurate
Right.
Yeah.
for the vote. And
Right.
of course, these could change and we would revote it, but
I do have an editorial comment on that the people have spoken. They've made it very clear what they want and where they want it. And if it's going to be there, we need to know how we're going to use it. So, as I said, might be a little bit harsh, but the people who keep voting down the other plans have now gotten exactly what they want. They're getting our town hall where it exists now. So I don't know what to say other than that. But maybe we can put a caveat in our recommendation so that it says pending further updates, cost updates.
my
Do we want to leave that one out? We can leave that one out and recommend everything else if you're okay with the other items. We've done that before.
My issue with the language, Jean, is really just what Chris was saying is that it's more of a kind of an assessment of government functions and space needs as opposed to, did I understand that correctly? As opposed to a 41 Highland Ave space.
Right,
needs.
right. So I
We'd
again,
inform the 41 Highland Ave.
for space, for purposes of this conversation, I've just tentatively changed it to the future structure of government. We have to put it in a lot, I think, better terms than that, but that's really what this is about. It's a study about that. It's not a study of the building anymore. So it's about,
And it's really to answer that fundamental question of why do we need a town hall? Like, why do we
Right.
need so much space? Why do we need this building? Why do we need to invest in this building that no one goes into?
Right. Well, people do go into it and they work there every day. And it's not safe.
I know, I'm just saying.
There are
you know.
areas that are just plain not safe. And, everything doesn't have to be beautiful, but man, there are some crazy things going on in that building.
And
And I only say that because there are certain, there are plenty of people in town here that
think that
function in this town for years and really never go in there. I mean,
Oh, they only
So-
go in there to pay their taxes and buy their.
they don't even do that.
I know. It's
So
crazy.
that's again, it's just shaping that conversation.
so I'm just not, I don't want to beat a dead horse or an alive horse or whatever, but at the same time, we don't want to be disingenuous. We want to be honest about what we're doing, that this is a study on government functionality in the future that's going to inform some of the decisions we have to make in terms of facilities, et cetera. So
Right. And I totally agree that we've studied and studied and studied this to death and spent a lot of money on studying. So I don't know what the right answer is, but I know we have to do something. We have to get started. So that would be my reason for, and I think that the change to the verbiage is great. So do we want to recommend?
I'm fine with recommending.
Okay, so is that a motion, Mary?
I would move the question, yes.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. And we do have a couple of weeks if we want to tweak something, or if somebody comes up with a better answer, we can change it a little bit. Okay, so roll call. Mike Barclay,
Mike Barclay, aye.
Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron, aye.
Fran Collins,
Yeah, aye.
Diane Kennedy,
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Mark Maggi,
Mark Maggi, aye.
Mary McGoldrick,
Aye.
Vince Thornton,
Aye.
and Gina Stino, aye. Okay, so that's number 4. We're going to move to number 6. I'm guessing community preservation isn't ready yet, Chris?
No, and for that matter, I don't know that the votes have all taken place on capital either, but we can at least walk through them. Um,
Six. So do we want to wait on both of them?
yeah, the capital met Monday and they changed this.
Okay,
And I don't have the updated, for example, well, I can walk through them just visually with you really quickly. So, but I don't have the votes or anything on these. The first one is actually not Securus long guns. The police are replacing their long guns. They've had them for years and years and years, and they carry them in the cruisers for, if they need them for things. They usually don't, thankfully. So that's the replacement of those.
so the security upgrades is actually guns?
Yeah, it's a replacement of the long guns that they carry. And it would be repurposing money that they had been allocated, but they'd end up not needing for another purpose.
Okay,
The airlifting bags are going to be paid for in a different way, so they're coming out. The walk-in coolers being paid for a different way, so that's coming out. The next three are water projects that are all being vetted, but they're all being paid for by water retained earnings anyway, the money they already have in their bank accounts. We're waiting on the paperwork on the schools, but this, we're going to hopefully know a week from tonight if the town's been accepted into the MSBA Accelerated Repair Program for Osgood, and if that's the case, we'll have to allocate money for the design costs. The number that was floated to us last time was $15,000, which sounded very small, but we'll know better next week for sure.
okay.
And then the fire alarm system for the middle high school. That's the really big project that's kicking around. I think it's actually close to 1.5 million right now, but that's the other really large one. That will come out of the stabilization fund anyway. Both of the school projects will come out of their school stabilization fund, not the capital stabilization. So, that said, I believe capital meets. I want to say the capital's meeting next week to finalize this work. I think that's my understanding.
Okay. Mike?
Chris, just out of curiosity, the retained earnings for the water. So this is a pretty big hit out of retained earnings. I guess where will that stand after these expenditures? I mean, I know a couple of years ago there was some projects done that I believe were bonded. Just curious where retained earnings will be after these monies are spent.
Yeah, so give me, I actually have a, let's see, I actually just got an update on that today. So water going into this meeting, and this is not updating it with, the 24 work isn't done. So, hold on a second. They were coming into this meeting with $1.4 million in their retained earnings. So they should be okay. I think that's correct. Well, no, I don't know if that's correct. They had sufficient money, Mike. Fairly, they had come in. They got $1.8 million certified last year, and then since then they've spent some money down, but they still had a lot of money left. So it's not 1.4 going to this meeting. It doesn't look like that's quite right, but there was a lot. So so they have plenty of money. So this request will still leave them with several $100,000 in retained earnings. That's not counting anything that comes out of 24 audit.
Okay, but we still want to, I mean, really theoretically, we want to run with some level of retained earnings.
Yes.
I guess that's another question for another day, but we don't want it to be too low.
No, I think we most certainly want to keep it, like the town, 5% at least of your operating number, just in case. And they were there because their budget's about $5 million, right? So if they're, $500,000 in retained earnings or so, that would be good. I mean, they have a little more they have a lot more fungible because they're so weather and sale dependent. I think having a bigger cushion is better. So about $500,000. I think they'll be right around that if I recall the numbers, Mike. But we'll confirm them before you have to vote.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Diane, Mary, and then Mark.
Just a question, it shows how out of touch I am. What current projects do we have in front of the MSBA, Chris?
There's two applications. There's one for the accelerated repair program for the Osgood School roof.
Yeah.
We'll hear about that in I think it's next week. They announced the district selected. And if that happens, there'd be a sprint. So we'd pay for the design, get the design, go to bid, and then at the annual in the spring, we'd set the money aside for the actual construction, and then the work would be done over the summer. The hope is that there's a belief that the roof may actually not have to be completely, front to back replaced, but there may be a fair amount of repair, even hefty repair, but repair which would make the project easier and less costly. That's the hope. That's one. The other is the replacement of the Cohasset Middle High School. That's the main MSB. That's their, I forget the logo, Mary and Jean. It's called the something else program. The core program. Thank you, Ellen. Sorry, it's the core program, and that we'll hear about in December. And if we're accepted into that, that's a multi-year process. So.
Again, the only follow-up, just in terms of presenting matters to town meeting, I would recommend is, if we're going to end up with a new middle school, high school, and I understand that the timeline on that is so far off, and we're asking for $1.2 million on a system, is that something that can be worked into a new plan? Anyway, it's just a question that's going to get asked by somebody. So I just want us to think that out.
The middle high school, I mean, in a perfect world, would be replaced for years, even if we got accepted the program. And by the way, you're making a very valid point. The fire alarm system is critical to the health and safety of the building too. So it's one of these points where the town's got to make a decision, right, about doing these things. Because look where we are at town hall, right? You don't want to put kids at risk. It's not a good idea. So I'm not being no hyperbole here. I'm just, but it's a fair question. The repair of the roof that's actually really good. That's a smart advanced repair that saves us money. So I don't think there'll be any questions about that. I hope.
It stalls further damage. I mean, obviously, if the roof fails, everything could fail.
And again, I don't. The new superintendent has experience with a significant experience with MSBA projects, and I think we did a really good job of presenting the town as a whole to this, because not only do we have a really well vetted project, but we also have a funding source already in place, and they require that because we have the stabilization fund. So by having that in place, there's no more votes needed except at town meeting. You don't have to go to the ballot or anything else to fund this. So it puts us, I think, in an advantageous place. Fingers crossed. So.
Okay, Mary.
That was Diane's question was mine. So just in terms of where we were with that application and the implications of spending, over $1 million. So.
Okay, Mark.
The school stabilization fund was $1 million a year, correct?
No, it was $1.5 million a year. So,
25.
And it's been 2 years. So there was $3 million less the money that's been already put aside for the tile repair in the spring.
Okay.
So there's a chunk of money in there. Right?
So the current balance of the stabilization fund can carry both of those then.
Yeah. Plus,
but it'll take it down pretty significantly because I know there was some various alignment on how that stabilization fund and was being executed and in the long range planning for that in the competing projects within the schools. Just wanted to make sure there was enough money there, number one, and kind of a sense of balance with that.
There should be. Plus, remember, we have providing that the select board and everyone agrees to continue the fund another year, there'll be another $1.5 million for FY25, FY26. I'm sorry. So, which again, I think would be more than enough to cover these projects. And, you know, in a worst case scenario, let's say the Osgood roof had to be fully replaced. You can always issue a short bond or a bond anticipation note over a couple of years, then pay for it over a couple of years with the dedicated funding streams that are coming in from this fund. Excuse me.
Just to, Mark, if you're done, just a
Yep.
quick question, and this is part of what we'll be discussing next week, I'm assuming, with the select board. Is
Stabilization funds, yeah.
okay.
Okay, so we recommended Article 7. And we're gonna hold on the other one, on the previous one. Article 8, creation of revolving fund for public health programs. Do you have any more information on that for us, Chris?
Well, that's, you have the spreadsheet. I have Pam in the audience if you want me to here. I'll bring her in here. If you have the spreadsheet on the program, so does anyone have any other questions? I'm promoting Pam, so she's full in.
Looks like
I think,
Yeah, Chris, just, I mean, in Article 8, it says the spending limit's 75,000.
yeah, I can reduce that. I mean, again, that was a placeholder. so.
35 in, projected fees, so.
Yeah, let me just I'll make that change right now. I made it, I'll show you. I'm making it 35.
Okay.
Now that we actually have a hard number, we can start editing this down properly. So you see, I just changed it to $35,000.
Great. Any other questions on it? We okay with that revision so that we're ready to recommend, or does it need more discussion? Okay, I think we're good then. Do I have a motion to recommend Article 8, creation of revolving fund for public health programs, to town meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, Mike Barclay,
Mike Barclay, aye.
Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron, aye.
Fran Collins,
Aye.
Diane Kennedy,
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Mark Maggi,
Mark Mangi, aye.
Mary McGoldrick,
Aye.
Vince Thornton,
Vince Thornton, aye.
and Gina Stino, aye. So we're good on that one. Okay, Article 9, amendments to Article 10.1 wind energy.
Oh, Tom Callahan has appeared in the audience. Are you ready for him to make his presentation?
Yes. Yeah, he was concerned that he was going to be late. And I told him
You timed it perfectly because he literally just appeared in the audience. So here he comes.
it's all good. It's magic.
It is magic. And I saw him at the Beechwood Playground too. He was not one of the Paw Patrol characters, though. I'm fairly certain I saw him separately.
I bet he had ice cream though.
I think I did see him doing a
No, I
one-on-one.
can't. I don't cheat as much as I could, but I can't eat ice cream anymore. But we are gonna have a nice ice cream shop in the neighborhood. You all noticed how well the building is coming along.
Someday.
Yeah, it's moving right along. Anyway, I'll try to be brief. Do you all have these in front of you, or do I need to pull them up on the screen? I can do that.
We could screen share, that would be great.
Yeah.
All right, well, give me a moment to find it.
Tom, I could put up the warrant version or you could put up yours or whatever's easier.
Oh, yeah, why don't you do that, Chris, if you don't mind, because I think I changed the order to where we want to have it presented. All right, I'll go somewhat quickly through the ones that can be gone through quickly. The changes to the wind bylaw and to the solar bylaw are similar, that we're not changing. There's a little housekeeping edits, but most of the intent of it is to shorten it and take materials such as application materials and some technical specifications that may change over time and move them out of the bylaw into regulations where they're much more easily amendable. still through a public hearing process. So that's the intent of both of these articles. The only substantive changes that with our consolidation of the commercial districts on Route 3A, that was accomplished last spring and has been approved by the AG. The large-scale turbine facilities and the large-scale ground-mounted solar facilities could be built on the 3A commercial district, throughout that district, not just relegated to a small area as it was before. That's the only substantive change here that's being made. That was really a function of what happened last spring. So these, again, is just something, was a desire to do this for quite some time, to try to make these bylaws a little more streamlined and get material that is better dealt with in regulations out, and leave the bylaw just for the main substantive issues that it has to address.
Well, that's the wrong
I
one.
don't know, Gene, just, I have, are you acting chair while Gene just takes a break here, Mary?
I'm here.
She's there.
Oh, okay. No, it looks like you had Fran and Mike had questions.
Okay. Mike?
I think Fran's hand was up first. You can go
No,
ahead, Fran.
my question is on the solar farm, not on the wind.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, Tom, just real quickly, for me, just I've read through these a couple times, and under section A, the purpose and intent section,
Yep.
where down at the end, we're striking the part that it sounds like enables the review of the wind turbines, you know, in conjunction with other regulations, historic district, et cetera. I'm just wondering, is that captured somewhere else, or are we trying to carve out the review for this and the solar from, I guess, being reviewed, you know, in conjunction with these other areas of town?
No, they'd still have to go through a special permit process where all of that can happen.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, the references in the purpose section of both of them was to change the reference to the Green Communities Act, which was passed at some point after when these two bylaws were first passed, so. Because both of those bylaws are really now in existence in conjunction with the state's Green Communities Act.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions on this? Okay, so Fran had questions on the solar part.
Mhm.
Yeah, you said that you had to have an acre of land to have a solar field. Now, for instance, if I wanted to put in I have enough land, but if I have a roof that doesn't lend itself.
Yeah, that's a common question. So the existing wind and solar bylaws deal with large scale facilities. And that's what they're still dealing with.
I wanted to make sure that was clear.
You know, when we redid Article 4, which is our article on uses, we brought in provisions about small scale and individual property solar uses. The AG's office was hot to trot on all the towns encouraging the use of solar energy on houses within their uses provision of their bylaws. We did that last fall. And that's all in there, because previously we hadn't actually allowed in the bylaw a solar array on your house. Now we do, but it's in Article 4. So this section of the bylaw still is only dealing with the large scale facility, like the one on the landfill. We were just dealing with the landfill one at planning board tonight. So that one will need a sizable piece of land, as does the wind turbine, because we're still only regulating the large scale turbines, not anything small.
But if a homeowner,
It's not for a homeowner. This is for a commercial solar array.
I know, but the question's gonna come up. If a
Yeah, but
homeowner,
then I would point, and I don't have it in front of me, Fran, no
now let
disrespect.
me answer the question, Tom.
Yeah,
If a homeowner wanted to put the solar array on the ground because its roof orientation wouldn't lend itself to proper generation of solar power, is he gonna have to have an acre of land?
No, that's dealt with in Article 4.
Okay. all right,
We allowed for ground-mounted individual property solar arrays in Article 4 when we made those
Okay.
changes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, any more questions on the solar part? And then we'll go back to wind and make a recommendation. Okay, if we have no questions, do I have a motion to recommend? Man. Sorry, Article 9.
Diane has a question.
I guess my only question is, has planning or any of the other committees formed a recommendation that
Yeah,
can help us?
we've recommended everything except the new last minute one, which I'll get to.
Okay,
We're going to have our hearing on November 6th for, the zoning board also has gone through this one.
okay,
These two.
great, thank you.
Okay. So do I have a motion to recommend the amendment to Article 10.1 wind energy
So moved.
to town meeting? Okay, so that's Fran. Do we have a second?
Second,
Mary? Okay, roll call. Mike Barclay,
Mike Barclay, aye.
Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron, aye.
Fran Collins.
Aye.
Diane Kennedy,
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Mark Maggi,
Mark Maggi, aye.
Mary McGoldrick,
aye.
Vince Thornton,
Aye.
and Jean Estino, aye. Great. Okay, now for the amendments to Article 10.2 solar energy, do I have a motion to recommend that to town meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Mike Barclay,
Mike Barclay, aye on Article 10.
it's 10.2 solar energy. Thank you.
The article itself is 10. What we're amending is Article 10.2, right?
Right, and I'm doing them separately.
Right, but the last one, the wind, was Article 9. So I'm just looking at how it's linked.
Article not, right, okay, I see what you're saying, 10.1 and 10.2. Okay. Let's do over. Mike Barclay,
Aye.
Mark Cameron,
Aye.
Fran Collins.
Aye.
Diane Kennedy,
Aye.
Mark Maggi. Mark
Sorry.
Maggi,
Yep, aye. Couldn't get the mute button.
Mary McGoldrick,
Aye.
Vince Thornton,
Aye.
Meg Wheeler. Oh, she's not here, sorry, Jean Estino, aye.
Chris, you have the document up again? I don't know what 11 is now.
So next is Article 11, amendments to Article 9.3 floodplain and watershed
Okay.
protection district.
Yeah, so this too is just relatively minor housekeeping changes. The state has come out with a new model floodplain and watershed protection bylaw. We needed to bring it into compliance. We had a grant and we got the help of MAPC. The actual text, when you see the changes that are, underlined or crossed out, are very small because our bylaw was in pretty close compliance with the new model bylaw. So there's very, very little housekeeping changes here, but this is just simply to bring this bylaw into full compliance with the state's new requirements.
Any questions?
Yeah. Where are we here? I have a question on this footbridge and planks in the floodplain and watershed protection. An 18-inch wide walking surface is not very wide for someone to walk on a plank. That looks like it's a safety hazard, if anything else. I don't know where that dimension came from, but
It's been there since the bylaws existed. And again, it's the sole purpose of this is housekeeping to bring it into compliance with the new state model bylaw. And we've had experts rewrite it with these changes that. Not an issue under the model bylaw, and it's not an issue that's ever been brought up
All
here.
right, well, it should be looked at because it doesn't, it's really not a very safe walking surface. Okay. End of comment.
Anybody else?
Jean, I just have the same question as before. Is this something that, you know, has been discussed by planning, zoning, or any other pertinent boards?
Everything other than the new one that's being brought up last minute is improved, recommended by the planning board in their formal hearings in the last couple of weeks, and then also through the zoning board.
Okay, and this isn't one of the new ones. Thank you.
No, the new one has got to do with the MBTA district.
Got it. Great, thank you.
Okay, thanks for that
Okay.
clarification. Okay, so do I have a motion to recommend Article 11, floodplain and watershed protection district?
I'll move it.
Second,
Diane? And I'm sorry, I didn't hear who seconded.
I did. Second,
Okay, thanks, Mike. Diane. All right, roll call, Mike Barclay,
Mike Barclay, aye.
Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron, I.
Fran Collins,
All right,
Diane Kennedy,
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Mark Maggi,
Mark Maggi, aye.
Mary McGoldrick,
Aye.
Vince Thornton,
Aye.
and Gina Stino, aye.
okay.
So next is Article 12, amendments to Article 9.1 land alteration.
Oh. These haven't been changed in the order we were hoping for, but that's okay. All right, so, because this one is gonna be more debate. This has some more substantive changes, so. The land alteration bylaw was brought in, years ago to replace the old earth removal bylaw. It dealt with regulations about how much of a lot could be cleared. It also dealt with earth removal still, and in particular, protection for what we define as exposed ledge face, I guess is the term. And what we wanted to do here was when it was brought forward by a citizen's petition in 2017, it got a majority but failed the 2/3 by 6 votes. So the next year in 2018, it was amended quite a bit. A lot of compromises were made to get something passed. There were some confusing references, I thought confusing, to land classifications that the assessor's office uses, which usually don't find their ways into zoning bylaws. So we took a lot of that out, and basically the main change here is that we took away some of the exceptions, because we see properties, a lot of the properties being developed now, the ones that weren't developed for good reasons in the past, but you know, marginal properties with a lot of ledge, and we see a lot of blasting going on all over town. And what this always did, so the clearing, we put it in a logical order: clearing first, grade changes, then earth removal and ledge removal, and then the exceptions. So in the clearing part, we haven't changed anything in terms of the percentages of a lot that can be cleared, and we have a standard for lots that are already developed and ones that are newly developed. What we did do in the clearing is we took away the exception for small lots. So in the past, we had an exception that lots under 18,000 square feet, which is the minimum size in Residence A, were exempt. We took that exemption out. On the ledge part of it, what we had previously exempted was the removal of exposed ledge. And again, I'll emphasize again and again that this is only dealing with exposed ledge. The protected interest is the visual appeal of ledge that's unique to our community and gives it its character. We are not dealing with subsurface ledge. There are people on my board who would like us to and basically prohibit all removal of ledge, but we can't go that far. But anyway, what we had before is that you could alter and remove exposed ledge to build the primary structure, the utilities, and all of the accessory structures, so driveways, detached garages, tennis courts, pools, and the like. So what we have done with this is remove those exemptions for the accessory structures. You'll still be able to remove, as of right, exposed ledge to build the primary house and the utilities serving that house. If the garage is part of the house, then the garage is part of the exemption. All the accessory structures now are no longer automatically exempt. So all it will mean, it's not a prohibition. It means you will go through a special permit process and it will be subject to scrutiny and under the special permit standard of whether it's substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. Since the bylaws existed, since 2018, the planning board has only dealt with one special permit, and that was at the Actors Road property, which the project was to tear down that house and rebuild it. That hasn't happened, but that was the only one we've dealt with. So we're obviously not capturing it enough of these projects that are really taking away a lot of ledge on a piece of property. And we're there's a poster child property for this right now down on Cunningham Bridge. So we think that by removing some of these exemptions, we'll be giving some of these projects more scrutiny. Again, not a prohibition. It just means you'll go through a special permit process for the removal of ledge in association with accessory structures. That's the big change.
Comments, questions? Mike?
Tom, but you mentioned at the outset that this article was still subject to more debate at the planning board and.
Well, no, we're anticipating we'll have more debate. I mean, some of the what do we have, like 8, 9 articles, maybe 10? Some of them are housekeeping and real simple, and we wanted to order them on the warrant that way, put simple first and discussion ones right later. We anticipate that this will just generate more discussion at town meeting, not that it's controversial or difficult. The planning board debated it quite a bit, and actually a lot of the debate was to go even further with this, and I cautioned some of my members about going too far in prohibiting removal of ledge and prohibiting development, because then we get into a regulatory taking issue. So we can't prohibit basically under Massachusetts zoning law. So
okay, but this
but everybody in the end, this was a unanimous. I believe this was a unanimous recommendation.
Okay, so this version has been unanimously approved by the planning. Okay, all right, thank you.
Any more questions? If not, then do I have a motion to?
Can I just ask, is this order set, or can we go with the plan to get the simple ones out of the way first and then go with the more controversial ones? I see this one
I don't
generating.
know. I'll talk to Chris.
Okay.
That can still be done. I mean, that was just our preference. I mean,
I think it makes logical sense because some of these, we can blaze right through and catch up some time at town meeting. I anticipate this one having some lengthy discussion. So
yeah.
Okay, so do I have a motion to recommend Article 12, amendments to Article 9.1 land alteration for town meeting, the warrant for town meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call. Mike Barclay,
Mike Barclay, aye.
Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron, aye.
Fran Collins.
Aye.
Diane Kennedy,
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Mark Maggi,
Maggie, aye.
Mary McGoldrick,
Aye.
Vince Thornton,
Vince Thornton, aye.
And Gina Stino, aye. Okay, so next is Article 13. Implementation of a new development impact / mitigation bylaw as new Article 11.
Yeah, this is another one that I would have preferred is more closer to the end, but that's okay, only because it's the new thing that we had. This is the real one new initiative we're taking here. So there'd been some discussion for some time amongst the prior bylaw working group of having some kind of bylaw that would allow the planning board and the zoning board to address mitigation and, and assess as part of a permit condition. And the planning board, we recently dealt with a subdivision, a small subdivision off of the end of Black Horse Lane. And, what mitigation we're getting there was a matter of negotiation, not that we had a mandate to do it or not do it. So this will give the planning board and the zoning board, when they're dealing with special permits or site plans, to be able to deal with mitigation and request it. It's not going to be mandatory in every case. It is still going to be case by case and discretionary, but it will give both boards the authority to ask for it rather than simply rely on the good faith of the applicant. The model for this, when I first was searching around, there aren't many towns that have this, but this is sort of a variation of Hanover's bylaw. There's Dedham also has one. In both cases, they are dealing with large commercial sites. And Dedham's commercial development along Route 1 and Hanover's along 53. They are dealing with very, large scale commercial development, so they needed to have something like this. So we needed to take those and cohesitize them, as a word I've made up, to bring it down to scale for what we need. And, when we passed the MBTA Communities Act zoning, which has also now been approved, we were anticipating any projects to be developed there, and we all know that the maximum is a potential 600 some odd units. We wanted to have the ability and the tool to be able to order mitigation in certain areas. And Chris, if you could put it back up, I want to just point out some highlights of it.
Yeah.
I apologize. So if we could go up to applicability, okay? So this is what it would apply to. Any project that's going to be subject to a special permit or site plan review. Okay, and that means that is going to capture commercial development on 3A, mixed use development in the village, and commercial development in the harbor. It is not, all right. There's an exception, if you see in there, that the zoning board requested about Article 8. Article 8 is when you're dealing with non-conforming structures. And that's where the zoning board makes a call, whether you have an existing non-conformity and you're seeking to expand it, they make a call under a special permit, whether you can do it or not. That's going to be accepted from that, because that's usually, Article 8 cases are usually dealing with single-family residences. So anything special permit site plan review. Additionally, the large home review process is a residential site plan review. That is the one case here where this bylaw could apply to a single family house. We discussed this at length, that in all likelihood, it will be rare if a single family house, no matter how large it is going to cause adverse impacts against town infrastructure that needs to be mitigated in some way. But in case it does, this will give us the authority to assess mitigation in those cases. And then with subdivisions, any subdivision of 3 lots or more. We do not see large subdivisions. The one on Black Horse Lane was 4. We would have loved to have done mitigation. Couldn't do a sidewalk all the way out to Summer Street because of the nature of Black Horse Lane and the layout of Black Horse Lane. But we think that that project, and if Black Horse Lane is unique, that it was a subdivision on one side owned by one owner, but then there's other lots on the other side that are being developed by a different owner, and there's the potential of 8 to 10 new houses up there. So it would have been nice if we would have had the capability to compel mitigation. We are getting a sidewalk within the subdivision, but it's going to end at the existing Black Horse Lane. But so we're capturing subdivisions, and again, of 3 or more, but for Cohasset, those are large subdivisions. If you're within one of those projects, then you go into 11.3, is you're going to have to do an impact assessment. And and then you see under 11.3, just scroll a little bit, Chris, A, B, C, D, E, F. Those are the subject matters that we are looking at to measure whether there's any adverse impacts and whether we can do any, then or mitigation related to it. The big thing that's not in there that we cannot do by state law is to mitigate against increased school population. We can't do that. So, the multifamily, the MBTA district, if we do get a large multifamily project someday, we can deal with sidewalks, we can deal with infrastructure, we can deal with loss of vegetation. We can't deal with increased school children. So if that question comes up, it's just not permitted for us to do that. Again, we go through here, the language is may, so it's always discretionary to the board about whether a particular project is going to require a particular type of mitigation. And the mitigation can take the form of doing something, like building a sidewalk, or it may be something to the effect of contributing to the town's new sidewalk fund or to the town's tree fund, something of that nature. So it can be a monetary compensation, or it can be an actual order to do a particular act of mitigation. And that's really the highlight of it. And then this gets, we're looking at the screen right now, is some of the details of what areas we can seek mitigation in. And again, we're doing this in anticipation of the MBTA district. We're doing it as we may see more and more development, more development in the village or the harbor, where we can order, sidewalks to be built and things of that sort. One Pleasant Street was talked about quite a bit. They redid the sidewalk in front of One Pleasant Street, but that was voluntary. Now we would have the ability to say to a developer, you need to do that, so that's this will be unique for a town of our size, but it's not unheard of either. So we think it's just going to be a good thing to have in our back pocket should the particularly large and potentially adverse project come before one of our boards.
Okay, any more questions? Ready to vote? So do I have a motion to recommend Article 13, implementation of a new development impact mitigation bylaw as new Article 11, and recommend it to town meeting via the warrant?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Sorry, who seconded?
Mark Cameron.
Thank you, Mark. Okay. Roll call, please. Mike Barclay,
Mike Barclay, aye.
Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron, aye.
Fran Collins,
Aye.
Diane Kennedy,
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Mark Maggi,
Mark Magic.
Mary McGoldrick,
Aye.
Vince Thornton,
Aye.
Gina Stino, aye. Doug doesn't like long meetings?
He can jump on
No.
your lap there, Tom. We'd love to see him.
Yeah, he's a new addition, taking over somebody's father who went into a nursing home. Anyway, what is this one?
So the
Oh,
next
okay.
one is 14.
All right, this one, so last fall, when we did the changes to Article 4, You mind if I just run her downstairs and let her out, let him out?
Go right ahead.
Sorry about this.
Where's Clarabelle, Diane?
I don't know. She left. She's been on Zoom all day, so she's probably tired.
Gotcha. I haven't seen her tail in front of your face at all tonight.
Oh, no, she was here earlier.
I did see her walk across once.
I was leading a meeting this morning and she was sitting on the windowsill and her tail kept going like this in front of the screen all the time.
Oh, and look, we have another furry friend there.
Kayla.
All right, sorry about that. Sorry about that. So last fall, when we changed the Article 4 about uses, we consolidated what had been a standalone article about accessory dwelling units into Article 4. And the major change we made was to allow an accessory dwelling unit to be built in an accessory structure, like a shed or a garage. Because previously we had only allowed them to be built within the existing house. And over 15 years, we've seen almost zero permits. So the idea was expand their use, potential for their use, and see if that encourages more development of them. In the meantime, a few months ago, the state passed a new law. Now, again, the state is constantly tweaking laws like the MBTA law to try to encourage affordable housing. And the state passed a law that said that now towns have to allow accessory dwelling units by right, up to 900 square feet. In our previous bylaw, the size limit was 900 square feet, but it was a special permit to do it. So this change is to comply with the new state law. And so now the first part of it is dealing with an accessory dwelling unit as of right, up to 900 square feet. And then we're also now creating a second one, a larger one. And I think that this was largely at the suggestion of a member of the zoning board to allow for a larger accessory dwelling unit up to 1,250 square feet. But that would still be a special permit process. So we're adopting the state's as of right up to 900 square feet, and we're having a potentially larger one up to 1,250 by special permit. The other change that we've made, again, a lot of prompting by the zoning board, was we used to have a cap on this, no more than 10 applications a year. And then once ADUs got to be 10% of the housing stock of the town, which would be something like 320 ADUs, the whole law would be sunsetted. We took those caps out. The as of right provisions now of state law kind of throw the idea of caps out the window anyway. And we're fairly confident at this point we'll never get to 10% of the town's total housing stock. One of the things the zoning board has mentioned that they speculate that, there could be 40, 50, 60 of these that exist in town that are not permitted, maybe predate the bylaw when it was first passed, but, hopefully we'd encourage people to start, getting these allowed legally as opposed to illegally, but we'll have to see. But the main purpose of this article is to now comply with the new state law. That's it.
Okay, any questions? No questions, no comments? Okay, then do I have a motion to recommend Article 14 be added to the warrant for town meeting?
So moved.
Mark, do I have a second?
Second.
Excuse me, Jean, just a clarification on the motion. It was to recommend this to town meeting.
Recommended to town meeting via the warrant. Okay, Mike Barclay,
Mike Barclay, aye.
Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron, I.
Fran Collins.
Aye.
Diane Kennedy,
Diane Kennedy, I.
Mark Maggi,
Mark Maggi, aye.
Mary McGoldrick,
Aye.
Vince Thornton,
Vince Thornton, aye.
and Gina Stino, aye. Okay, great. Thank you.
Surprise me with what's next. No.
Article 15,
Oh,
amendment.
okay, this was put in as a request of the zoning board again. Again, when we redid the Article 5 table of dimensional regulations last fall, there was a note in that table that was taken out that the zoning board thought was useful to put back in. It wasn't taken out for any particular reason. It just was taken out when the Judge Cutler was drafting that article. And there wasn't any debate about it, any controversy about it. But what this note is, it deals with fairly rare circumstance in town. I don't think there's too many of these, but today roads are designed with a 40-foot setback. And then maybe 20 feet of that 40 feet is paved. And for the roads that are less than that 40 feet, so which would be some of the older roads in town, and like the old portion of Black Horse Lane would be an example, probably. Probably some others, Stockbridge Street might be another one. The zoning board had this provision in so that it could deal with the setback, have some flexibility to deal with the setback of the house in a road that's narrower and has a less narrow right of way. So it's only going to come up today with new development on one of these very small substandard streets that might exist in town. So, you know, we saw no problem with the zoning board asking for this to be put back in. It makes them comfortable for a rare circumstance where it'll actually be applied, so be it.
Any questions? Comments? Okay, then could I get a motion to recommend Article 15 sorry, I'm losing it. That Article 15 be recommended to be addition.
Recommend Article 15 to town meeting. I'll move it.
Yeah. Thank you, Diane.
I'll second.
Okay. Mike Barclay,
Mike Barclay, aye.
Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron, I.
Fran Collins.
Aye.
Diane Kennedy,
Diane Kennedy, I.
Mark Maggi. Mark Maggi,
Maggi, aye.
Mary McGoldrick,
Aye.
Vince Thornton.
Vince Thornton.
Can you guys hear me? Mark Maggi, aye.
Yes. Yes. And I'm sorry, Vince, you said, okay. And Gina Stino, aye.
Thank you.
Okay, so that is,
Is that it?
well, we do have Article 16, but it's not on the agenda.
All right, yeah, so 16 was a last minute thing that the state surprised us with. And the planning board, we have time, we have to have a required statutory hearing on all zoning changes, so we're gonna be doing that in our recommendation at our meeting on November 6th.
Okay,
And then I'll run this by, but as long as we're all here, let me just quickly run by it. So when we were writing this, the MBTA zoning district, it was submitted to what used to be called the Department of Housing and Community Developments. It's now EOHLC. I don't even know what it stands for. I think it's Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. That's what it is. They gave it a preliminary okay. And we went to town meeting, we had our vote, and the Attorney General a month or two ago approved all of our warrant articles. So our district is legal and it exists. Lo and behold, a couple of weeks ago, this particular department comes back and says, oh, you have a watershed protection district, that this MBTA district is in that, and you know, you need to sync the two of them together. So that's what this is doing. So, I mean, the bylaw exists, the district exists, it's legal now, it's been approved by the Attorney General. Why this agency didn't say this to us last summer when they were looking at it, or last winter before we went to Springtown meeting, I can't tell you, but better late than never, they've come up with this. So it just means in this MBTA district, we are supposed to allow this project as of right. We cannot impose special permits. Projects within the watershed protection district would normally require a special permit, so this is exempting the MBTA district from the watershed protection district's requirements of a special permit. The watershed protection district's restrictions on uses and storing noxious materials, those would still all apply. We just can't subject the project to a special permit. And that's all this is accomplishing. And again, the state caught it later than they could have or should have, but we're just trying to comply with that. So that's all this is doing.
Okay, thanks for the explanation. Because it's not on the warrant and it hasn't been vetted by everyone, I hesitate to take any action on it tonight, but we can certainly do it at one of our next couple of meetings. Did you say November 6th you're going to be?
We're going to deal with it on November 6th, yeah.
Okay,
And then we have a meeting on November 20th.
okay. So after that, we'll take action on it.
All right. Whatever your pleasure is, it's not going to change the explanation of it.
No, I understand that, but if it hasn't been vetted, then we look like,
It's on the warrant, as I understand it, it's on the warrant. It's not,
it's on the draft warrant,
it
but
hasn't
it's
been.
not on our agenda.
All right.
And
Okay.
technically, we're not supposed to take action on things
I
that are
mean, all
not.
the planning board has to do is give its a formal recommendation, that's all, but it'd be on the warrant.
That's fine. So we'll just wait on this
Okay.
last one. And that's the end of what you're going to present on at this town meeting?
Yeah, and I hope it goes that quickly.
Yeah.
I hope and Woody better show up because he's gonna explain 2 or 3 of them.
Thank you, Tom, for continuing
very
to do
much.
a thankless
Thanks for
job
having me.
so beautifully.
I raised my hand to say the same thing.
You've
All right.
Many
Thank you
years
all.
of lots of work.
Appreciate it, thank you. Bye.
Okay, so the next discussion item on the agenda is town email issues. And maybe Chris could go through this. We had last week, we had a couple of people who didn't get all of their emails and didn't get attachments to be ready in time for our meeting. So I asked Tracy, when we discovered what was happening, there were 2 people that didn't get anything. So any ideas about what happened, Chris? Is there a problem with the email, or were they sent to the old email address, Cohasset MA, or because I made that mistake a couple of times at the very beginning.
I hope that whoever had a problem, it hasn't been resolved. If it hasn't, I'm happy to plug you into our IT staff. Sometimes when people are porting these over to a second device, that often happens. Sometimes there's technology jiggles that happen sometimes, but I don't know any of the specifics of what happened at all, other than if there is an issue, Phil, please get in touch with one of us as quickly as you can if you're not seeing an email or something, and we can make sure that our IT staff get in touch with you. Sometimes you have to, reboot the account, so to speak, maybe if there's a
Okay.
password issue or something. So
Yeah, and I know that Tracy did forward it to IT and asked the question. I know, Mary, you didn't get the attachments, or you didn't get anything.
A few weeks
No.
ago, and it was more of a time delay because it showed up then afterwards and it was timestamped correctly. I just didn't get it through. So
Oh, okay,
just one of those things, I'm guessing.
okay.
sometimes sometimes individuals' email servers or home networks, whatever,
Right.
things get weird. I mean, I was literally sitting with Megan James today, and it took 5 minutes for something that she was sitting across my office because it was on her phone. So it went through the ether. went to
Well,
China and back, and then it finally got to me about 5 minutes later. So you never know how this stuff works, right?
we're doing a migration at my office, and it's not been easy, but before that, sometimes it would be 3 hours and I wouldn't get any emails, which is crazy because I get emails constantly. And then they would all show up in a queue. There'd be like 12 emails.
Hmm.
Where were they? So maybe it's a similar situation. Maybe things are just backed up.
I
But
didn't get any. There's a couple that I missed, and I discovered them under Tracy's heading. I did some digging down and under Tracy's, when you have that banner across the
Yeah.
emails that are pending. And I did find one of them there, and then Ellen Mack called me up sometime this week and sent me an email, and I never got hers. But since then, the stuff that's been coming from Tracy, I've been getting it. So
Okay.
I don't know what the story is.
All right. Well, you all know that there's a meeting next Tuesday.
Yep.
Instead of Wednesday. So be expecting some items. I don't know exactly what will be on the agenda for next week, but you should get a packet and you'll get it by
Well,
Friday.
we'll have to post, right? Definitely for sure by Friday.
Right.
So
But tomorrow's Thursday already. So I'd
Right.
like to get things to people early, but it's not going to happen for next week.
well, except you're only doing what? You're down to
Yeah, we're down a lot. So that's good.
2, 5, 6. 2, 5, 6, 16 and 17. Is that right? And 2 is because we don't know there's going to be any unpaid bills anyway, right?
Yep.
And the
Already-
citizen petitions, right?
Yeah,
Right.
that one is number 17.
Okay,
17.
sorry.
Yeah. So I have, well, 2 if there's anything, 5, 6, that's CPC and capital. And then 16 and 17 are the one we just talked about, which you may not get at until after the warrant closes anyway, if it hasn't gone through the process, but that won't matter that much. And then 17, the 17 people have been contacted again about coming to your meeting. I'll make sure it's Tuesday they come. I'll have
Yes.
Tracy reset the time, so.
Yep.
We're not actually even sure who's presenting anymore. So, it's been we've gotten cross signals from the petitioners about who's presenting and who's not. So I don't know what they're doing, so
Okay. All right. Well, hopefully they'll figure it out by next Tuesday.
we shall see.
Yes. Okay. So due to the late hour, we will wait on the minutes because next week will probably be a shorter meeting and we can take our time and go through those. But does anybody else have anything that needs to be discussed or added to an agenda in the future?
Okay.
If not,
So,
okay, go ahead.
so I have to circle back with the fire chief. We might come looking for funding for these, they're called airlifting bags.
Oh,
What
yeah,
they do
right.
is, yeah, they go under the cars or vehicles, they puff them up and they raise the vehicle or the tree or whatever.
Yep.
Apparently the ones they have are out of service life and they need to replace them, and I don't want to wait. They're less than a capital item. That said, I think it would make sense. I'd like to fund them right away. So I asked him to check into his budget and find what he has. But if there's any kind of a delay on that, we may circle back, but I'll let you know for sure.
Okay, that seems really like a public safety item because if the ones that we have in service now malfunction, somebody could get really hurt. So
Yes, and we don't want that to happen. So I'm just waiting. So that we're definitely moving to replace them. The only question is whether or not there's funding, and if we need it, we'd have to come to the advisory committee for the the emergency funding. So,
okay.
but other than that,
About how much do you think that is?
that's a little less than $10,000.
Okay,
It's not a lot of money.
very good. So with that said, it's 8:49 and I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So move.
And a second?
Second.
Okay. All right, Mike Barclay,
Barclay, aye.
Mark Cameron,
Aye.
Fran Collins.
Aye.
Diane Kennedy,
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Mark Maggi,
Mark Maggi, aye.
Mary McGoldrick,
Aye.
Vince Thornton,
Vince Thornton, aye.
and Gina Stino, aye. Okay, good night. I will see everybody Tuesday.
Good night.
Right.
Everybody.
Aye,
Thanks,
thank you.
Jean. Great
Yeah.
meeting.
Mm.